Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Corner Office here on a Friday night. We wanted to get a little update out before, we come into the weekend slate of games that we're going to be talking about this week. It's a real push towards the playoffs these past couple of weeks. Teams starting to get eliminated from the playoffs, teams starting to clinch spots. So, this is the time to really be watching football. And I think, we're just really excited to, bring you another episode and talk a little bit more about the NFL and, a little bit more about what's been going on in the NBA these past couple of days, because obviously, as time goes on, the more you learn about teams, the more these new teams with new coaches are trying to find themselves. And, it's always good to, just get some basketball talk out there, because it's kind of our strong suit. It's, something that we really like to do. So,
yeah, especially, coming off and having not recorded for a little while, the NBA looks very different now than it did, say, 2 weeks ago, the last time that we talked about them. I would say most notably, the Cleveland Cavaliers are no longer undefeated. They have lost 3 games. They're 20-3 right now, and they're actually sitting a game and a half above us in the standings. So it kind of begs the question, who do you like out of the East right now? The Cavaliers or the Celtics?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still sticking with the C's. I think that obviously, like, the Cavs have had some relatively good success this to start the year, and they've looked like a very solid team. I don't think that you can say that they're going to like continue to fade. You know what I mean? Like, in their past 3 games, they're on a 3-game winning streak coming off of the loss against Atlanta, and 2 of their 3 losses have come to the Hawks. Like, they've lost 2 to the Hawks and 1 to the Celtics. You know what I mean? Like, every other team they've kind of dominated. I think strength of schedule wise, they haven't played as strong of a schedule as the Celtics have thus far in the NBA. Although they just picked up a big win over the Nuggets last night, and they do like continue to look like one of the best teams in the NBA. But I just think in a 7-game series, like, there isn't a team that's better than the Celtics right now. Like, I just think that they're the betting favorites to, win again. And if I had to take a choice, like, at a full strength matchup, I think the Celtics are just a little better.
Yeah, and I mean, we lost to them by 4 points last Sunday without Jaylen Brown or Derek White.
Right.
And I think you look at that and I mean, if you look at that game watching it, Joe Mazzulla was just out there like trying new lineups. He was like, what does it look like if we have Horford and Cornette on the floor at the same time? Yep. Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis started together for the first time possibly ever. So the fact that we only lost that game by 4 points, I think really kind of speaks to the strength of this team and the just how versatile they are.
Yeah.
I don't similarly talking about the Western Conference, it doesn't really look like we thought that it would right now. You have teams like the Nuggets in 8th. You have the Lakers in 9th, Timberwolves in 10th, and the Rockets are currently sitting in 2nd right now. But the question that kind of presents itself is, do you think that there's a team that can beat the Thunder?
Like, no. I think inexperience is probably going to be the killer for the Thunder right now. And I think, like, when I look at the Western Conference standings, the most overwhelming thing that like really sticks out to me is just the Timberwolves being 10th, only sitting in 11-10. And I think that some of these teams that we talked about being really good this year, like, obviously we have the Thunder in the 1. The Rockets have been very impressive for a young lineup, but they do have great coaching. Like, we know Ime Udoka really well. Being Celtics fans, he led us to the 2022 NBA championship that we lost to the Warriors. So we know that defense is going to be a very solid attribute of any team that he is coaching. But that being said, like, as of right now, it seems like it's the Thunder's conference to lose, which is even scarier when you think about the amount of picks that they have in the upcoming seasons. Obviously we knew that Shea was going to be, fantastic, and J-Dub was going to be his second in command, right? And they're doing this while Chet Holmgren hasn't played in the past couple of games, right? Because he's still like rehabbing his injury. But I think that everybody knew that this defense was going to be the thing that really, stood out about this Thunder team, just because of the amount of defensive guards and like high quality defensive guards that they have. So, like, they're holding teams to under 110 points every game. They're a top 10 defense in the NBA right now, which is something that you look at and you go, okay, like, that is a way to be successful, right? They have the offensive firepower. I still think they're missing like maybe one single offensive piece, but Look, I'll be honest. I was a really big proponent of not getting Isaiah Hartenstein in free agency, just because I thought that you were going to have to pay too much for a player that is aging, like isn't going to be the same production level, and I just thought that his value was a bit overstated coming off of that Knicks run that he had. But he's been fantastic for them too. You know what I mean? Like he's been a really good piece for them, just because he's filled that role where Chet has like kind of left off, and he's given them another center look. So they're getting most of their offensive production from like various different ways, which honestly we've seen it work before, right? I think the Nuggets did the same. You have one primary star and then multiple pieces around that aren't all-star caliber, but are like right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that when you look at that Hartenstein deal, the decider of whether or not it was a good deal is not ever going to be this season, because we kind of knew what we had going in. He's a guy who will get you 10 and 10, right? I think the value of that deal kind of gets told in the next coming years. So another question, right? Which is kind of where I was going with this.
Uh-huh.
If the Thunder don't, I think that in order for it to be considered a successful season, they have to go to the finals.
Really?
At least the Western Conference Finals. And
I
if
think
they
the
don't
Western
live up to
Conference
those
Finals appearance
expectations,
is what they're looking at. Yeah, I think.
how much if they don't live up to those expectations,
Yep.
how much longer can they talk about inexperience?
I think this is probably it. This is probably the last season that I think you can say that about this team. But like, I mean, we've talked about the West being an absolute dogfight, and it's going to continue to be that way for the entirety of the season. Like, the top 10 teams in the West is going to change like rapidly. You know what I mean? There are multiple games with multiple teams within like 1.5 games of each other from like seed 4 to seed 10. You know what I mean? Like it's just like that's how tight knit this Western Conference has been. And I mean, obviously you have them last year. They do go to. Did they make it to the Western Conference Finals? They did.
No,
they lost. They lost. They lost in
the second round.
in the semis. Yep.
They didn't just lose; they got killed by the Mavericks.
Yes, they were outclassed by the Mavericks in that series. So I do think that this is probably the last time that you can point to playoff inexperience and be like that is a deciding factor for them is this current season. And I do think that anything less than a Western Conference Finals berth will be a disappointment for them. But right now, like everything seems to be trending in the right direction. They've kind of pulled off a perfect rebuild, in my opinion, going from the Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook years to right now. Like this is how you're supposed to do it. Sixers fans, all you guys, like everybody who is, them and the Pistons, I think are the two prototypes as to like how you're supposed to do it. And I'm interested to see how this team is going to continue to play for the rest of the season, but I wouldn't be surprised if they stick if they're just outright the one seed in the Western Conference, because they do look far and away the best team in that conference right now. That being said, the most hot team in the conference right now is the Dallas Mavericks, who are on a 6-game win streak, but
and
I don't see them catching up to the Thunder.
Hasn't Luka not been healthy too?
Yeah, he's been in and out.
He missed a lot of games at the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, so like I think we expected, once they got him and Kyrie back to like play well. Obviously, like the pieces around them are pretty decently good, and we always talked about like. For me, it was like, where is their offensive production going to come from aside from those two guys? And, it was mostly like 3-point shooting last year. And I think that Klay Thompson has done well in the limited minutes that he's played in his role.
I think that that's part of it. I think that another one of the massive questions going into the season was how are they going to have 3 guys on the court that you can absolutely pick apart? And I think that when their wins are coming, it's because people are not taking advantage of that.
I don't disagree.
And so I think they're one of those teams that can beat up on small teams, but when they're in a real game, they will be matchup hunted the entire game.
I do think I've been impressed by Najee Marshall though, which is something that George brought up in our preview. Was the addition of him, and he started to make some jump shots, so that's a good look for them. But yes, I don't necessarily trust the fact that the Mavericks are going to be a team like a real threat come the end of the season.
Another team that's kind of starting to figure it out is the Milwaukee Bucks, who started the season looking like one of the worst teams in the NBA, and have now started to kind of put some wins together. So do you think that this is them kind of getting hot against bad teams, or do you think that they're actually starting to figure it out?
I think the answer is, for one, it doesn't really matter. I think like you looked at this Bucks team and you went, they need to win right now because they were only sitting at like 2-8. They were losing a bunch of games to teams that they should have beaten. And now, like, you know, you're back above 500. You've kind of found a groove. So regardless of who you're playing or who you're beating, like these wins are valuable wins for them. You know what I mean? They needed to find something. And that something is just like Giannis Antetokounmpo being insanely good. You know what I mean? Like that's all it's been is like they put every single chip in their basket is on Giannis. And if Giannis plays well, they win. And if he doesn't, they probably don't win. Him and Dame in pick and roll right now is probably the most unstoppable thing in the NBA. And when their role players play well, like they do solid. But like what we've said about this team before is they are an aging superstar type of team. Like they don't have a ton of bench production. So I don't really know how reliant you can be on Giannis every single night in and night out. But yeah, I mean, have some of their past few wins not been super quality wins, even though they're on like a 6 or a 7 game win streak at this point? Yes, they haven't really played a good team in a while. Oh, they just lost last night, but before that they were on, you know, a 7 game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7 game win streak. You know, so like yeah, you can say that you know, some of the teams that they've been beating haven't been great, you know, Pistons, Hornets, all these other teams. But I just think that for a team like this, like in order to be a playoff contender, you got to win. And regardless of if you're beating teams like the Celtics or the Cavs or teams at the top of the Eastern Conference, like, you know, they needed any wins that they could get. And now that they're finding their footing, I think that confidence is probably going to get them back into that top 4 because still like the Eastern Conference is just an absolute mess right now. Like, you know, there are so many teams below 500. There are going to be teams
at what point does health come into consideration for this Bucks team?
I mean, I think it's already in consideration. You know what I mean? Like, I think if Giannis doesn't play in the playoffs, which he hasn't for the past 2 seasons, they can't win. It's just simple as that.
So, I mean, let's wrap up basketball here by talking about what is looking like a consideration to be the worst NBA team of all time. And that is, of course, the Washington Wizards. They have lost 16 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, when you're looking at that core of guys do you think that the front office is saying these are our guys, we're just going to really suck this year and then, I mean, get Cooper Flag?
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously tanking for Flag at this point. I have no idea what is up with this like what the direction of this Wizards team is.
Alex Sarr is bad. He has not figured it out.
He's been
Jordan
really
Poole, I will say, is starting to learn how to play in the NBA. Jonas Valanciunas is fine but old.
Yep.
Right? Corey Kispert can shoot a basketball.
Yep.
And
Bilal Coulibaly can play defense.
Coulibaly can play defense
that, he can't do
sometimes play offense. And sometimes he's really bad at offense too.
Yep.
Bub Carrington is a basketball player. We don't really know what he does at this point.
Yes.
Johnny Davis was one of the worst draft picks in NBA history.
He was like 4th or 5th, right?
I think he was like middle.
I'm gonna look that up.
I think he was like 12 or something. But he definitely won Big Ten Player of the Year with Wisconsin.
He was 10th. But yeah, he has been bad.
Another team that is so bad. And I mean, not to beat a dead horse here. The 76ers are one of the worst teams in basketball.
Yeah, and they look bad.
I mean, at what point do you realize that you're not going to make the playoffs? If they still are like this at the All-Star break, blow it up.
Yeah, you got to do something different.
Who wants Joel Embiid right now? Ricky Pearsall got shot in the chest, and he's played more games than Joel Embiid has this season.
I saw that stat. That's crazy. Yeah, Joel Embiid has played 4 games. I don't think they've won a single one that he's played.
We've been in the NBA season for 2 months now.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. At one point, at what point do you just take his MVP away? You know what I mean? Like,
for real, dude.
Do you remember when
he's only averaging 20 and 7 in those games too?
Do you remember?
16% from 3 and 38% from the floor. For a big man, that is horrible.
The foul baiting just isn't working out for him anymore. Do you remember when Kyle Kuzma was like compared with like Jason Tatum? Do you remember those days?
Yeah.
was a rough time to be an NBA fan, it seems.
Oh, dude, the Wizards need to move on from Kyle Kuzma. I don't know why they still have him on the team. He could be like a very good third option on like
Dude,
a
the Wizards
contender
are so
team.
bad.
He is so bad. Like, he's not fun to watch either. Like, I really can't tell you anything positive about this Wizards team.
Yeah, I mean, and you get to watch them whenever you want. How much are tickets?
Let's set a line.
Like $20 for a nosebleed.
$22, let's say, including fees.
Okay.
So the Nuggets are in town, and the cheapest ticket is $33.
Okay.
But then the Grizzlies play, and the tickets are 21. Celtics 24, Hornets 16, and that's including fees. So let me go see how much they are without fees.
Oh my god!
$8.
Wow. What are
you
the
could go
fees,
watch
like
an NBA team? Yeah, you can watch an NBA team play for $8 plus fees, obviously.
Jeez, it's probably cheaper than the food inside the building.
It is. Yeah, the food inside the building is like $20. I think it's more expensive to go watch the main Celtics right now, who, by the way, would give the Wizards a serious run. I think Wizards win in 7.
Yeah.
That main Celtics team is full of NBA guys. J.D. Davison's averaging like 40 points a game in his last like couple games.
Yeah, he's been
on the main
gross.
Celtics.
Cam Spencer had like 51 on the Grizzly, like the Memphis Hustle, which is beside the point. Dumb name, by the way.
G League names are horrible.
Yeah.
Ours is called the Washington Go-Go's.
That's also bad.
Yeah.
It's also bad.
The Swarm is the Hornets team. All right, this is off the point, off topic. Let's move to the NFL.
Yes.
I think the biggest question of this week is what's going to be happening with Christian McCaffrey. It looks like he's out for the season.
Yep.
And so if you are the San Francisco 49ers...
Can I ask this really quickly before we get to your San Francisco 49ers point?
Yeah.
Is Christian McCaffrey the worst number 1 overall draft pick in NFL fantasy history?
Yeah.
This year?
No, because he's gotten injured earlier as a number 1 draft pick on the Panthers.
Okay.
So the answer is yes. It just might not be this year.
Okay. All right, go on. Sorry.
Dude, the top 3 picks in fantasy this year were McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, and Tyreek Hill, all of whom have been wildly disappointing.
Really? I think Jamar went before a couple of those guys for me. And that was fine.
Oh yeah, Jamar Chase. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jamar Chase was 2.
But yes, that those are bad numbers. They've posted some bad numbers. CeeDee Lamb is not that good.
I agree, especially with Cooper Rush throwing to him. But again, beside the point.
Beside the point.
Speaking back on the 49ers, how much longer is their championship window?
Dude, I don't know. Like, it's not even that just like they've had injuries. Like, they're like pretty solid core players have just played bad this year. You know what I mean? Like Deebo Samuel is in the game over 10 fantasy points in like 4 weeks. Like, he's supposed to be like your guy. Obviously, Ayuk goes down early. Like, you need that type of production from a guy like him to be successful. They're sitting at the bottom of the NFC West. They're still 5-7. Somehow the window is open for them to like win a game and like get to the playoffs.
But they're last in their division right now.
I know. And their top receiver right now on the year is like Jawan Jennings, which is nuts to me. Like, that makes no sense to me. I don't know. I just think that I don't think this is the year that they make the playoffs. I think they missed the playoffs this year, but I don't think their window is closed. You know what I mean? Like, I still think that Kyle Shanahan is a really good coach. I think it's someone that you have to keep on roster. You cannot fire him or he will be scooped up by somebody else and be successful. Hank, wink, Bears, you know, if he gets fired, go pick him up. Probably
on the first day. I don't even think he gets 12 hours.
But like, I just think that they've had too many holes, too many really close losses, too many losses that they want back, too many games where they've just left too much on the table. Like, and to be honest with you, like, it wasn't their year from the start. Like, they started off games, They started off this season like really beating up on a really bad Jets team, to which everybody was like, oh, like maybe the 49ers are like, pretty good, because everybody thinks the Jets are pretty good, but the Jets are 3-9 now. You know what I mean? So like now you look at them and you're like, how many quality wins do they really have? And I think the answer is very few. You lose to the Cardinals in a nail biter, a game you should have won, and then you kind of get like embarrassed by like the Chiefs beat up on you, the Packers destroy you, and then the Bills destroy you on primetime. And I think at this point, like their confidence is just a bit shot. Like normally these are games that they're in or winning, and I just don't see them, having a revival or going to the playoffs this year. I think that they're going to pack it up.
I just don't really see a point in it. Like, why would you rather go to the playoffs and lose in the first round than have a pretty actually good draft pick next year in a position that you probably need? No, I mean. But tanking is relative, right? Like they may not purposefully be tanking, but I don't really see them winning that many more games this season, especially with Isaiah Garundo as your RB1.
Yeah.
So I think that their window's closed for this season, but I agree with you. I don't think it's closed yet. Now, you talked about that primetime game. Dude, Josh Allen has the best life in the world right now. Let's talk about his last week. Gets engaged to Haley Steinfeld. Notoriously beautiful. Should have been me.
Should have been me.
Should have been me.
Should have been us.
Sure. Absolutely kills the 49ers in a snow game, which is awesome.
Catches his own touchdown pass.
Becomes the first player in NFL history to catch, rush, and throw for a touchdown.
Yep.
Pretty sick. And he's just like the coolest guy. I mean, how much more could you ask for? Like, it's getting selfish, Josh. It's getting selfish. Regardless.
Yeah, help us out. Like
that was another point that I had.
Save some for the rest of us. You had that down.
What? Yeah. What else? Let's talk about the Chiefs, dude.
All right.
At what point are the Chiefs gonna impress us?
Dude,
you thought it was going to come against the Raiders.
They're not going to, and then they're going to win the goddamn Super Bowl. This is exactly what's going to happen. They're going to win the Super Bowl.
I mean, you'd think so, right? Because it happens every year. But how many games have they been on the precipice of losing where some freaky shit happens and they end up winning? Basically all 11 of their wins, right?
I mean, yeah.
So, I mean, at what point are you going to figure it out? Because once you start playing teams in the playoffs, they're not going to let you get away with that. The Bills didn't, and the Bills, I think, would kill them right now.
I hope so. I don't want to say anything because when I say something, then they win. And I don't want them to win anymore. You know what I mean? Like, them winning the Super Bowl would be like the worst case scenario. This is what's going to happen. They're gonna mildly get through the season. They're going to be the 1 seed in the East, or the AFC, and then they're going to win every single game by a single score, and then they're going to win the Super Bowl off of some bullshit, flag throw that happens out of the blue just because it's the Chiefs and that's how they do things. And everybody's going to be like, oh, I'm so happy I watched 19 weeks of football to watch the Chiefs win again. That's
you have a bit of a pessimistic outlook.
Yeah, I'm just not excited. Like, I don't want to see this happen again. I
think if we look in the AFC right now, in terms of the standings, let's talk about teams that I think could beat them. The Bills, I think, will beat them.
Okay. Didn't last year, same scenario.
I think the Chargers might beat them on Sunday night.
Interesting.
I think the Texans lose to them. I think the Steelers and the Ravens both beat them. I think the Steelers actually are the worst first-round matchup for this Chiefs team.
Just an ugly, ugly game of football that would be. Unwatchable.
The Steelers win ugly football games, and they play such good defense and no offense. And that is a team
watchable game of football.
But that is a team that is actually fit to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah. Shout out Russell Wilson for throwing for 414 yards. And then hold on.
Yeah, what are you doing? Shout out Jameis Winston for throwing for 500.
I was going to say 625 if you count his interception runbacks. Yeah.
which would actually mean 4 touchdowns.
And then two other touchdowns. So 6 touchdowns.
Wait. No, he only had 3 passing touchdowns, I think.
He had 4 passing touchdowns and 2 pick
Oh my
sixes.
god. Okay, so he had 6 passing touchdowns,
and
600
625
yards, and 3 interceptions. It's my MVP. So
Yeah,
I've
best player I've ever seen.
Never seen Lamar Jackson throw for 6 passing
Literally
touchdowns.
the most Jameis Winston game I've ever seen in my entire life was him just like slinging the rock, them playing well, and then them losing on a pick six.
He threw the ball 58 times.
They have a no run clause on the Cleveland Browns.
Nick Chubb, yeah.
Guy does not get touches. That game was awesome. I won't even lie. And it was against like he threw 2 pick sixes against third string DBs. Like Pat Surtain hasn't played in 4 weeks. You know what I mean? Like
that's just how he does it, dude. The defense literally does not matter to Jameis Winston. He's gonna wake up and he's gonna be like, how am I gonna play today?
497 yards. What is his QBR this game? I have no idea. But it's awesome.
It's actually 88, which is not that bad
for throwing 2 pick sixes and another pick.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. It's a pretty crazy stat. But yeah, shout out Jameis for making football fun again because Bo Nix was not going to win that game on his own. So,
moving on. I think that's all we got for football. We can just jump into picks.
Yeah, cool.
All right, so we have now tied 3 weeks in a row. It's been a month since we had an actual winner, which was me. So I still have first pick. I'm taking Bills minus 3.5 over the LA Rams.
There you go. Nice. Way to get that one out. Yeah, the lines this week are really bad. A lot of really ugly games. That being said, I think the Bengals are still somehow have a shot at the playoffs. So I think that they're going to be trying to win despite their defense being chopped chicken. I'm going to take them -5 over Dallas, but this game could go any way.
I agree. I've got for my second pick, I think the New York Giants are just simply put the worst football team in the NFL. So I am taking the Saints -5 over the Giants.
Okay. I don't like how Arizona has played these past couple of weeks, although I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. is due for a big game. That being said, I'm going to take Seattle +2.5 over Arizona. I think Seattle just wins this game outright in kind of a rivalry matchup. This is low-key a rivalry.
My brother might be going to that game.
Really?
He's in Arizona right now, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Stay tuned. That really doesn't matter all that much, but my last pick, again, I think the Jets are just so bad at football. And this game is in Miami, so I have Dolphins -6. I actually think the Dolphins looked really good last week. So
I think this is a game the Jets can win. And I think it'd be funny if they win and the Patriots win, and then we get another one of those memes where it's Michael Scott standing next to the guy, and it's best expectations in the past 20 years and worst expectations in the last 20 years. It's just, same record, but we'll see. That being said, with my final pick here, I am going to be taking the Steelers -6.5 over the Browns. I think the Browns have used all of their fun potion in the past couple of weeks, and in an ugly game of football that this is going to be, I like the Steelers to win this by a score.
Not game of the week. Pretty easy this week. We didn't really have to talk about it that much.
Yeah, we didn't really think about it.
Titans Jaguars. No Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Horrible hit.
Please don't watch this game. Please, if you're out there, please don't watch it.
If you have a multi-view going and you have it in the corner because you want to watch another game, but you couldn't find one without the Titans Jaguars in it, don't watch the other game. It's not worth it.
Go find something.
2 mediocre games is better than one that you have to watch and this one.
One that you have to sit through and this one.
So, with that being said, I have the Titans to beat the Jaguars.
Yeah, it's the obvious pick, right? But for the sake of parity, I'll take the Jags here. Mac Jones ball.
Mac Jones ball. Travis Etienne ball. He's back.
Yeah, Tank Bixby ball. Evan Ingram ball. Brian Thomas Jr. ball. Trayvon Walker ball. Could be any one of those 7 guys. All right. let's talk about game of the week. Another week where there just like isn't a super obvious one. We kind of did have to talk about it a little bit, but we're going to have Chiefs Chargers here. You mentioned that you think this is a game that the Chargers can win. I want to get your thoughts on why that is, and and then we'll get your pick after that.
I mean, the Chiefs have been so bad, right? And they've been playing bad teams.
They've been bad.
They beat the Panthers by 3, and then they beat the Raiders on some bullshit.
Yep.
If we're just calling a spade a spade.
Yep.
So this Chargers team is good. I know they don't have J.K. Dobbins. And actually, I take that back. This Chargers team is mediocre. But mediocre is a step up from the teams that the Chiefs have barely been losing to, which are barely been beating, which is 2 of the 3 worst teams in the NFL, objectively. And so I think that this Chargers team has a good enough defense to kind of stop the Chiefs. And I'm not saying that I think that they'll win, right? I just think that they have a good chance. Like, I think they actually might.
Yeah.
Like, they might be the team to just, like, be annoying enough to the Chiefs where they win by, like, 3. Or they could get a key turnover at, like, the right time. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying I think they'll win. I have the Chiefs winning this game.
Yeah, I do too.
But I think the Chargers could be trouble, is what I really should say.
Okay. I don't disagree. I think I like Jim Harbaugh a lot, and I've continued to say that for the past couple of weeks, but I think the Chiefs win in another game where they probably shouldn't. And that's just kind of how that's gone down for the past couple of weeks. So I think that wraps it up, though.
Yeah, I think we got nothing else to talk about. We'll be back next week. Probably 2 episodes. We'll do a little NBA on Tuesday. We'll do some NFL on Thursday. But until then, this has been The Corner Office, and I'm Jack Byrne.
I'm Alex Penders.